It's 6:04 if I'm live. I think I am now. Which means I was early for once. This never happens. What's up, everyone? How are y'all doing here today? How is everyone on this lovely Tuesday night? I think I got everything set up here on OBS. Sorry if I'm loud. Let me try and... Oh, no, maybe? I don't know. I'm waiting to see if anything happens. Oh. Yeah, now it worked? Okay, well, OBS was just being weird. Well, I was early. I was going live at 6:04, but apparently this didn't want to work for me. But I think we're all good now. It looks like we're good. I can see myself. How is everyone doing this lovely Tuesday? It is Tuesday, right? Tuesday evening. Can you guys hear me all right? Am I too loud, too quiet? I'm trying to get everything set up on OBS here, so I think I've got everything adjusted to the levels and all that jazz that it needs to be. Let's see here. Welcome, everyone. What's up, Derek? Welcome, welcome. He beat you in the chat. Is everyone excited for HHN 33 this year? I forgot what year it was. Man, it's been way too long. And I have a cat between my legs. Hello, Nixie. You're gonna come say hi to everyone. Okay, no, you're not. Never mind. All good? That's what I like to hear. Well, welcome, everyone. If you guys watched my stream, what was that, Saturday, sometime last week, we're going to be covering kind of the same speculation points, going a little bit more in depth than I did the other day when I thought our tornado was going to destroy our house, and I wasn't planning on streaming, but since we survived, I did one as a YOLO anyways. So we're going to go a little bit more in depth, hopefully be able to answer some questions for you guys, and maybe you guys will bring something to the table that I don't even know about yet. Sounds good. Hey, Josh, welcome. I'm glad you were able to make it to the stream. I'll try and do some more West Coast friendly ones in the future. I promise. Emperor Sephiroth 2, awesome. What a name. Waiting and praying for the inevitable Ghostbusters announcement. Well, that's a perfect comment, because that was going to be kind of my first point here was... Who thinks we're going to be getting an announcement based off of a movie that's coming out in 2.5-3 days? Because I'd be willing to bet that we might be getting a Ghostbusters announcement here pretty soon. Nixie, since you jumped up, you have to say hi to everyone. Say hi. You look so happy. Is chat not popping up on my... let me see if I can fix that real quick here. Or maybe I just won't see chat at all. Oh, there we go. Okay, I think we got everything now. We're gonna hope and pray, because it's been one of those days with trying to set everything up. Punk Rock Playroom, let's go. Welcome back, my guy. WD did a sponsor segment on Monday night with Universal Studios. Could be, WWE could be cool. I know they also film, like, at Full Sail, which is just down the street. At least for part of it, so maybe that's part of the reason why. Okay, we're just gonna sit here this whole stream, I guess. But I think it would be interesting to see how they do a wrestling haunt. For those of you who don't know, I've been working on HHN trivia episodes, which will be coming soon. And if you stay tuned to this live stream, I'm actually going to be previewing part of that first episode I've been working on for the past 2 months, thanks to computer issues and various stuff. So stay tuned for that. But one thing that I did learn while I was doing that research is that Hollywood's event actually had a lot of wrestling-themed haunts in, like, the late 90s. Like, I think The Undertaker had his own haunt. I don't remember what else they had, but I couldn't find pictures or really anything else about them, unfortunately, to talk a little bit more about it, but it's been done before. I'd like to see how Orlando's take on it was. Let's see. The Void. Yeah. Hi, Amanda's here. What's up? Amanda 1.0. Skull and Spooky. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad you can make it here for a little bit. Josh, yes. I'm so excited to show you guys this trivia. It's going to be awesome. All right. Now that I have a cat on me that's shedding everywhere, and we got a decent group here, let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump right on into this spec. And if you guys have any questions, anything you want to chat about, hit me up. I'd be happy to answer questions, give my opinions and thoughts, and just, I do this because I like hanging out with you guys, and you guys listen to me, and that's pretty neat. So let's go to our spec map over here, where chat also isn't popping up. Let's see, give it a second. Hey, thank you, Skull and Spooky. Tell her happy birthday for me. I hope it's a good one. If you can't join the whole stream, that's totally fine. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more in the future you'll be able to come and hang out for. Come on. Do the thing. Hey, I thought I had all the tech issues worked out, but at least I can easy fix these ones. Let's go. Yeah, punk rock, maybe about Bray Wyatt, maybe, we'll gotta see. But let's go to this spec map here. Can you guys, no, you guys won't be able to see my mouse. I'm just gonna kind of, before we start about the actual haunts that are speculated, I'm gonna go a little, or I'm gonna talk a little bit about some general housekeeping slash unrelated stuff. I don't know the correct term for it. It's been too long since I've been doing these, so I'm a little out of my element. But if you guys do take a look at this map and you notice there is not a parade building, or there is not 2 parade buildings, there is 4 big ol' sprung tents rumored. It was revealed or discovered recently that there were permits filed for 2 more additional sprung tents to be built at HHN or built at Universal, taking place for the parade buildings, which it sounds like are just going to be going back to being parade buildings for the time being, given that Universal has a new daytime parade starting next year sometime. I can't really remember. But it sounds like, well, we lose those 2 locations, we're gaining 2 more tents. And if you've watched my countdown series, or if you've been going to HHN for a while, or if you just talk to people who have gone to HHN frequently, those tent haunts generally tend to be better than a lot of the other haunts, and many people's top haunts were in those sprung tents. And they're normally pretty strong every year. So I'm not really seeing this as a bad thing. I think that's great. I think the other benefit is that with these tents being specifically built just for HHN, the first 2 were built in 2007, I believe, or 2006 for the 2000, no, was it 2006? Because I think, yeah, it was 2006 because Psychopath and People Under the Stairs were the first ones that were in there for Sweet 16. But now that it's been almost, 20 years since they built those sprung tents, they know what's going to work and what doesn't, and they could potentially be built a little more tailored to HHN as permanent venues, or maybe they're going to be something like we saw for the Men in Black tent with Scary, House of a Thousand Corpses, Blumhouse 1 and 2, technically, where it's something just 2 temporary little structures that work, they fill their purpose for the next 2 years or so until something bigger and better comes along. But either way, I wouldn't really be discouraged about losing out on these 2 major venues, because tents are great. Even House of a Thousand Corpses, that vertical plot, they had so much vertical room and construction for that they were able to create sets I didn't think they'd be able to do in those tents. So the only bad thing about this, as I switch on over to Google Maps here, the only bad thing is going to be the walk. It works. So if you guys have been to HHN before, you know that the lines kind of suck. But I got an aerial view kind of pulled up of this back part of the park right here. So here's our 2 cute little sprung tents. You can see my mouse cursor, my children, I love them so much. And over on the right side here, we've got B108, which is where The Last of Us was last year, and the original parade building, B79, which is where Universal Monsters Unmasked and Legends Collide were the last 2 years. So kind of close to each other in terms of, you know, entrances and whatnot. Well, right now it looks like the permits and the location for those 2 new sprung tents that have been filed means that they're going to be put about right here, all the way in the back. So when y'all were queuing up for Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins last year and you're like, oh, I'm finally around the Men in Black building, well, sounds like that's about where these are going to be. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the queues go. DreamWorks Land should be open by then, and I don't think there's going to be anything with rights or contracts or any issues like that that would deter them from putting queue lines in those areas. I don't think they'll be able to put actors or anything themed for HHN, but I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to just, you know, put queues and whatnot in there. And another thing, if you guys were at HHN last year, you know how absolutely horrendous and how atrocious this bottleneck was when you were exiting these 2 sprungs and trying to get out of Darkest Deal or Dr. Oddfellow and make it back to the park. Like, that was a giant safety hazard. It was just a disaster, but given the cards that they were dealt with construction last year, it's kind of difficult to say what they could have done better without saying change the whole landscape of everything. So I think with these sprung tents, that also means that bottleneck and that congestion and chaos from last year, that's probably going to be a thing of the past. Fingers crossed, at least. Let me pop back to chat here real quick since I've been on my soapbox. So yeah, everybody be excited for 4 sprung tents. Like, that's awesome. Mostly sound stages and sprung tents, like, that's A-okay to me. Skull and Spooky feel like the only one that's 100% legit in the spec map is Ghostbusters. That's a reasonable assumption. We'll go a little more in depth there. Josh is also hyped for more tents. Yeah, parades have been on the downslope. At least for me, B108's real only home run was Seeds of Extinction in 2018. Monsters was decent. Hill House was pretty good, but it was overstuffed. But B108's kind of been a middling for me. But the OG Parade always has some bangers in it. Like, good to high quality bangers. So I'm a little bit sad about that one. Derek also likes the houses and the tents. Yeah, I agree. Emperor Sephiroth, they're going to make the walk even longer. Like, we're going to be doing 40,000 steps on an average night now and not just on those good days. Stop doing that. Okay. Darkest Deal, Puppet Theater, Descendants are all in my top 10. Yeah, for sure. Those are all stellar haunts. Darkest Deal was so good, man, last year. Tents, yes, tents make great facades. That's a good point, Derek. Because when we get to talking about the originals, there's one thing that I do want to talk about with that. Because tents do make great facades, and that's why I think there might be a little more truth to some of these. Skull and Spooky agree. Yeah, trying to get out last year was nuts. Like, I was so disassociated trying to exit those tents because I had to be, like, it was my first year being a content creator, so, like, I didn't want to be a jerk and, like, get that reputation out for myself, but also at the same time, I was like, I don't want to wait 15 minutes just to get out of this haunted house. All right, so there's my soapbox on that. Anyways, let's go ahead. Let's get back to our speculation map here, and let's go ahead and go around and see what we think after I get a drink here. Dazed and Confused, I need Dr. Oddfellow and Jack to be the icons this year. 100%. I support that. And I don't think there's a way that Dr. Oddfellow isn't coming back this year. And that's something I'll touch on, actually, I guess right now, and a little bit later as well. So I'm going to start out, can I point? South America, there we go, something like that. And we'll go around the map, starting from the sound stages and ending at the tents. But Sound Stage 23A, South America. Now, I've heard everything under the sun for this, and there's a lot of different avenues they could go, or the South America or the Latin America clue. Also, shout out to Horror Night Nightmares, before I forget, for putting together these maps for us, for the community to have something to discuss during these slower times when there aren't announcements, and just, you know, helping make HHN a year-round thing and not just an event that's every 2 months, or that lasts for 2 months once every year. Like, they help this community exist. So everybody make sure you give them a big round of applause, big thank you whenever you see anyone that's in part of their team or whatever, but couldn't do this without them. But South America, is it Creature from the Black Lagoon? Is it a take on Monstros from Hollywood's Pantheon, where they take different urban legends or myths or creatures from Latin America culture and kind of turn a full haunted house into them, kind of like Fiesta de Chupacabra? It very well could be either one of those, but I personally am leaning more towards Dr. Oddfellow. What was the main Marquee scare zone last year with Dr. Oddfellow? Well, I shouldn't say the main one. The one that everybody wanted to see, the one that was the most themed, would be Jungle of Doom, aka most everyone's favorite scare zone that I know. Everybody was always lining up to watch that little Dr. Oddfellow mini show, like, where he gets the skull and the powers, and it's so cool. And I think that that's more likely what South America is directing us towards, the source of where Dr. Oddfellow got his power. Now, whether that means that this is going to be something like an origin story, something that's just slightly related to the Dr. Oddfellow myth, something that takes place before Dr. Oddfellow was even there, maybe like a redo of the original, God, what was it, 2002 Jungle of Doom haunt? Or maybe this is just a hint to lead us to Dr. Oddfellow, and this is our Dr. Oddfellow versus Jack haunted house. But the way that I look at it is, last year we had two major IPs. You know, you had Stranger Things, you had The Last of Us. Like, there hasn't been a double whammy like that, at least in my opinion, in a long time, if even ever. Like, those are the two properties that so many people wanted to see. Like, the only thing I could think would be better would be if they did Last of Us and Five Nights at Freddy's. I think that's the only thing that could possibly be bigger. But even with all of that being said, what was one of the most popular parts of last year? Dr. Oddfellow. Not only in the Jungle of Doom scare zone, but up front. I have completely terrible footage of the Carnival of Oddities scare zone, whatever it was called, collection of horrors, because I could never get good video of Dr. Oddfellow because there was always people right up there trying to meet him, trying to talk with him, and that is great. It's a testament to how incredible those actors were to be able to bring the character to life, but also it showed that someone who wasn't present on any of the marketing, wasn't in any of the commercials, wasn't in any of the billboards, wasn't in anything promoting HHN, was still one of the biggest parts of the events for some people. And I think that proves that, yes, the IPs are going to be a big draw, but if you don't have that stimulating, that engrossing original content, you're not going to be satisfying the people who go year after year, the people who live, breathe, and exist HHN. And I think Dr. Oddfellow's popularity last year proves that this is a concept that should be explored more, that people want to explore more. So I think the next logical step in that is make it a haunted house. We've seen it plenty of times before. Saws and Steam, Scare Zone in 2010, Haunt in 2011. Most notably, probably Trick or Treat, Scare Zone in 2017, Haunt in 2018. I think that the demand is there for a Dr. Oddfellow sequel haunt that explores more of what we didn't see at last year's event. And I think it just makes sense that for this South America haunt, bring it back to the beginning, bring it back to Jungle of Doom. Why not? We've already had a present day Dr. Oddfellow haunt, and really, who cares about the rest of the scare zones last year? I don't actually mean that, but we already went through the Zodiac realm kind of at the end of Dr. Oddfellow's haunt. Dark Zodiac would be a cool haunted house, but would it necessarily connect very heavily to Dr. Oddfellow without just kind of feeling like a reskin Twisted Origins? Same could be said about the entrance area Vamps, what was it? Was it Vamp 69 last year? I can't remember with all of the Vamps, but Vamp I don't think would work too well as a haunted house, and Shipyard we've already kind of seen recently with Dead Man's Pier and whatnot, so I think it just makes too much sense. If it's not this South America haunt, I think it's going to be that Unknown Original over in whatever that is, Sprung Hi, Nixie. Thank you for screaming. Sprung 2. Oh, what are we getting? Oh, I got a little zebra toy. She dropped it too far away from me, though, so I can't show everyone. Let's see. Let me go back to... Yeah, South America symbol. Predicting Latin America. Yeah, I think Jungle of Doom Part 2 for sure. You know, I'd also be interested to see Creature from the Black Lagoon, but I kind of touched on this in a video in a few other places, but like, I just don't think they could do Creature from the Black Lagoon really well. Like, I hate to say it, but sorry. The Creatures section in 2019's Monsters was literally just walking under some netting while he popped out from the side. Like, that doesn't really sell me on the concept that they know how to make a cohesive underwater or Creature of the Black Lagoon haunt. And John Murdy, who basically is the godfather of Hollywood's events, also said he wanted to do Creature, but they couldn't find the budget to do it properly. So I think the fact that that all happened kind of nixes Creature being at the event for a while. Unfortunately, I thought that would have been a great way to kind of send off this Universal Monsters era, but maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll see. Let's see. Hi, Teeny. Josh, Monstros was so much fun. Yeah, I never did the original La Llorona, but I did the one, whatever it was, 2 years ago. I don't know, Monstros with the, I don't remember the creatures' names, I'm sorry. With the owl ladies, La Lechuga, was that her, or was that the other one? But that owl crazy lady puppet, oh, that was so good. It was incredible. If you guys want to see that, remind me when we get a little bit further on, and maybe I can pull up a video of it that I might have saved. I don't know if I got any good footage in that haunt or not, but we can take a look at it. Yeah, I agree, Derek. The lore is what brings the diehard fans in. And I feel like it's taken a back seat for a little bit, but now that last year showed that the lore can be as strong as it is, and it's, you know, people were that into it, I think that's a pretty green light signal, at least in my opinion, that should be the direction that the event goes towards. And Vam 69. Hi, Mom. Billy's mother from Scream 2. It's a HHN trivia spoiler. Potentially. The year that Murdy says we finally get to lead Creature, I'll believe it. Yeah, right? I also am not going to be talking about Hollywood Spec too much, just because I haven't really looked at it. I've been focusing mainly on Orlando, mainly on trying to get these videos out for you guys, so maybe in the future we'll talk a little bit more about Hollywood, but it's just been a whirlwind month for me, and especially the last 2 weeks, I haven't had a chance to breathe because I've been working so much, and I'm glad to be here talking with you guys. Like, it's 100% worth it, but there's just some things that unfortunately slip through the cracks when that happens. Also, later on, I'm going to announce what I'm going to be doing in 9 days from now for the, pause for dramatic effect, 1 year anniversary of this channel. It's hard to believe that I uploaded my first video almost a year ago. Yikes. Makes me feel old, but what a great year it's been, and I couldn't imagine having all of you guys sitting here and chatting with me a year ago, so I would consider this all a success. All right, I've talked about random stuff for enough, so let's move on to Soundstage 22, which also, again, has a film reel, which we are assuming means IPs, and Soundstage 23A I just talked about with potentially being Jungle of Doom doesn't have a film reel, so that might rule out it being a Monsters house, but who knows. Skull and Spooky, no worries, I'll see you next time, my guy. Have a good celebration. I'll always be here for you. Let's see, Homeland. Let's see, is 24B going to be Beetlejuice? I'll get to that in a minute, Mom. But no, I don't think it's going to be Beetlejuice. I don't think Beetlejuice is going to make it to the event this year. Oh, thanks, Derek. That means a lot, man. There's going to be a lot more content coming. I'm hopefully going to be getting 2 weekly releases within the next couple of weeks here. So if you've been liking the content, there's going to be plenty more for you. But talking about Soundstage 22 real quick. Vampire skull question mark. A lot of people have speculated this to be some type of Dracula haunt. Maybe it could be. Maybe it could just be vampires or something more Universal Monsters related. But I am going to go out on a semi-limb, and I am going to say that I think that this is Abigail. Or rather, I should say I think that Abigail is going to be coming to the event this year. For those of you who don't know what Abigail is or haven't seen the trailer, just go watch it. Pause the stream for 2 minutes and go watch it if you have to, or wait until the end. But it looks so good. It's from the Radio Silence team that just did Scream 5 and 6 and Ready or Not before that. It has Melissa Barrera, who was just in Scream 5 and 6 as the lead, and I can't even remember who else is in it, but that cast is stacked. But anyways, it's basically about Dracula's, I think it's present day at least. I'm gonna look it up while I'm talking. But I believe it's present day, but it's basically Dracula's daughter. These kidnappers break into their mansion while she's home alone because they're going to steal money, generic heist movie plot. But they find out that Abigail, this lone teenage girl, is a vampire, and she's a high stuff, like bloody aerial combat, like not just your typical hiding in the shadows and jumping out. One, it's going to be a Universal film, which means there's not going to be too many issues with the rights. And secondly, kind of talked a little bit already about, the original lore coming back. But you guys know when you kind of see a movie and you're like, bro, this would be perfect at HHN. Like, they could do this scene exactly like that. And, they already used this effect for something and they could just tweak it a little bit and it could be this. That's kind of how I felt while I was watching the Abigail trailer. Not only does it check off the IP haunt that people will be familiar with, but it also harkens back to kind of some of those old classic haunts. Hey, why are you jumping around, princess? And for those of you who are new here, I'm 6Billiam and I get attacked by my cats 24/7 because I guess that's the life that I chose. But anyways, going back to the early years that I went to the event, 2010, 2011, 2012, there were so many mansion haunts, or at least motifs. 2010 had Legendary Truth, the Wyandotte Estate. 2011 had Poe's Manor, at least a few rooms of Poe's Manor in Nevermore. 2012 had Dead End, which was another giant mansion. So not only do I kind of see these, some aerial effects or some of the bungees from something like The Fallen maybe, but just kind of pair that with the set design and the room ideas that they've already had from those past haunts, and I think it would be a really effective way to maybe save a little bit of money and time on trying to create something that's, wholly original, but I think the synergy is there as well. Let me know what you guys think. Even if this isn't the clue for the Dracula haunt, I think it might be for the unknown IP over at Fast and Furious, but I don't know. Scream and Ready or Not never made it to the event. I just think that Radio Silence is, I don't want to say a huge draw, but they're known enough in the horror community and they've been making a name for themselves that, I feel like when people hear Radio Silence or Abigail, a haunted house based off of the film by Radio Silence, a few people may at least be like, oh, hey, I know them. And, it's not like some no-name IP. It's not something, I'm sorry if anybody saw Imaginary, but it's not something like Imaginary where in a few months I think people are probably going to have forgotten that it ever existed. But, a few pictures I wanted to try and pull up real quick if I can find them. This one in particular is exactly what I thought when I saw the trailer. Let me look at chat while I'm here. Where am I? Sorry, I'm scrolling through 500,000 pictures on the wiki, so some haunts have 900,000 pictures, some haunts have 0, so where is it? I use this in my video. We're just gonna do that. All right. So like, if you guys have watched the trailer, like, come on. I don't know if there's a way that I can make this bigger, so sorry that it's kind of small. But like, something like this would be a room design that they've already used before. It's something that is aesthetically pleasing. Like, oh, I would love to see something like this. Like, it just looks so good. Also, Nixie, can you please stop climbing across everything computer related and knocking my camera? Let's see, first year. Let me get back to chat here real quick. Here, let me get a few. Let me pause on another picture so you guys get a better idea while I take a look at the chat and catch up on you guys. Like some of the stuff like these ones. Let's see. First. Ooh, Derek, first night doing 10 nights. Oh, get those legs ready. Get those walking shoes because, ooh, 2019 was the best year for IPs for nostalgic and new. Yeah, I would agree with that. That was a great balance. Yeah, I'd agree. Orlando's home band, Beetlejuice, I think. Derek agrees with me for Abigail. Let's go. Yeah, April 19th, which is coincidentally a month from today. I've said that I was going to eat my shoe so many times if something didn't come to HHN, but like, I'll wager this slipper again. I'll eat this if Abigail doesn't make some type of appearance at HHN. I mean, Megan proved that we all would, like, even a dance troupe would work, so I think there's definitely potential. All right, I'll see you in a minute, Josh. No worries. Yeah, Derek, I don't see Scream happening either. I thought maybe while the rights were, well, not the rights. I thought while everything was maybe still in a flux, maybe there was going to be some chance for Scream to make it to the event. But now that they have a pretty solid direction with Kevin Williamson returning to direct and Nev Campbell back to star, now that it basically seems like it's back on track. So I don't think that they're going to jump on it now when they can jump on it after the movie comes out. But this is Dead End from 2012. The last one I had showed you guys was Nevermore, The Madness of Poe from 2011. But like, here's another example of like how they've done these big mansions before and they look really, really good. So it's not like the idea of them creating something big like that is completely out of the realm of possibility. But like, if you guys didn't do Dead End, oh, so good. I don't know if there's going to have a picture of it on here, but the tunnel that they did, can't really tell, but like this hallway right here was they used like the scrim walls, which means that it looks normal, but when you shine light on it from the back, they become nearly invisible, and on the other side of that was where the spinning tunnel was, and it was just one of those holy crap moments that was so cool. And I've been trying to think of when they could use it in another haunt. I don't really think there's anything this year that I could see that effect being used in. I thought it was going to be in The Darkest Deal last year, but I guess I'm a dum-dum in that regard. Yeah, is this in the Exorcist location from last year? Yeah, it is. Same location as Exorcist. It's also, I don't want to say one of the bigger haunts, but I feel like they have slightly more room than they have on either side of Soundstage 23, and they have their own enclosed venue, so the haunts in 22 tend to feel just a little grander in scale and just a little more complete. It's a hard way to describe it, but since you don't have like noise bleed coming from the other haunt or operation issues, I shouldn't say issues, but like cast changes or emergency exit routes that have to cut through the haunt, I think they just can do a little bit more in that 22. But yeah, I can see similar characters as well coming back for Abigail, but touched on that one enough. Hi, Nixie, coming back for another toy. I'm going to go back over to 23B, which Cadillac, is it a Cadillac? Oh, I don't know my cars, but Ghostbusters. I think this is 100% Ghostbusters Afterlife. 23B is the same location that Stranger Things were in last year. I should also note that I think some of these locations are probably going to change based off of various factors, but it would be kind of interesting to see if Ghostbusters makes it back to 23B, because I guess technically that Q does have the longest footpath out of any of the HHN Qs, so I guess it would make sense for the headline haunt to go in that area, but that's just me rambling at this point. I think it just makes too much sense. If you look at the rest of the map this year, there isn't really that much nostalgia bait. There really isn't that much, 80s, 90s, just like retro vibes that are, I don't want to say family friendly, but like the Amblin type fear where it's like spooky but not scary, at least for the films. But they're still horror adjacent enough that they deserve a place in the universe, whether it's a show, it's a haunt, or it's whatever. And I think 2019's Ghostbusters haunt, for what it was worth, was fairly successful. So maybe only one or two scenes I thought kind of sucked and could have been retooled a little bit. But the effects looked incredible, a lot better than I was expecting. The scenes were massive. The scenes were huge. Ghostbusters is going to make a huge splash in, 2 days? 3 days when it opens, and I think it makes too much sense. The ideas also I've seen kicked around that it's going to be a tribute store over the summer. That might also be a possibility, but I just can't see Ghostbusters not coming back to HHN. Again, it's one of those things that just makes sense. So many people grew up with the series. So many people love it. 2019's haunt was great. Excuse me. And I'm sure they could probably repurpose some of those Slimer props or whatever. They already have an idea of how to do the haunt. Afterlife, whenever that came out. Did that come out in 2019? No, I'm curious. But previous Ghostbusters sequel proved that there's still interest in the franchise, and now Frozen Empire is a good way to jump back in. The interest is there. They're not kind of taking as big of a risk as they would be if they were doing whatever I just said. They were doing Ghostbusters Afterlife, but with Beetlejuice 2 also coming out this year, I think in the battle between Beetlejuice or Ghostbusters, it's Ghostbusters hands down. There's more potentials for scares, more potential for cooler effects, and Beetlejuice, I guess I can't say too much about Beetlejuice 2 considering that I haven't seen it yet, but it didn't translate that well to me for the 2020/2021 haunt, and I just don't see Beetlejuice coming back again in a haunted house unless there's a very scary reason for him to do so. I'm not going to talk about the shows because who freaking knows about those? Like, I have no idea in that world what the speculation may be. Maybe Beetlejuice comes back as a host for the rumored show starting this year and hopefully continuing on because he's a popular character and an important icon to the event. I mean, he was the first icon ever technically in the first year, so it would make sense for him to come back in a major way somehow, but I just don't think it's going to be in a haunt. I don't see it. Do I have anything else I want to talk about? Nope, I didn't really have anything else I wanted to talk about with Ghostbusters other than they're going to need something really big to kind of draw in the crowds. They're going to need that headliner, and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is it. People are still going to have fond memories of Dead Man's Pier, Winter's Wake from 2 years ago and that winter setting. I still think about Winter's Night from 2011. The years and like the actual like number of the year, like 2011 and 21, like that's what keeps screwing me up. Keep wanting to say the wrong one. But yeah, I just think Ghostbusters is going to be a lock, and I think if we're lucky, some of you won't even have watched this live stream by the time we get an announcement that Ghostbusters has made it to the event. So, fingers crossed. Also, quick plug for my Discord. Link is down in the description. But if you guys want to just chat with me more casually and meet some other people who love HHN and everything in horror as much as you do, come and join. I'm still a work in progress in building the community, but I love talking with you guys even when I'm not doing these live streams. All right. Let's move on to what I am most excited about. Okay, so Soundstage 24A. If you guys went last year to the event, you will know the tribute store was based off of comic books. And what was the logo for that comic book, whatever you may ask? Well, let me swap right on over. And you can see that, as I try and quickly swipe back and forth, that skull is nearly exactly the same except for a little more editing. The jaw line, can you see my mouse? I don't know. The jaw line where it says certified fan, that's been chopped off. Obviously, the Tribute Store logo has been removed because that kind of is a dead giveaway. But also, it's been cut in half white, half black. So the way I look at it is that is specifically highlighting that this skull was in black and white because it's already in black and white. And what that leads us to is one of the 4 zones that was in that Tribute Store, which would be False Idols was it part 2 or part 1? I can't remember. But that was a Boris Schuster experience, Legendary Truth, Case Files, all of that stuff. Pretty much as lore heavy into HHN as you can get is my guy Boris Schuster, one of the best icons the event has ever had, even though he hasn't really ever headlined his own year. But maybe that's going to change this year. I'm trying to find a good Nixie's bringing more toys. I don't know if you guys can hear the screaming as loud as I can. Nixie, oh, hi, and bye. But I think it just makes sense. Again, we've talked about already in this stream just how good the lore has been, how popular lore is, how much it made a big return in last year's event. So I think it makes sense to kind of return to that. I'm going to go to this one for now. Let's go on Boris Schuster's. But there's a few other things it could mean. It could just be directing us to the generic comic book idea that this is going to be a comic book haunt based off of one of these 4 comic books. But, you know, another thing that I was thinking about was how last year Dr. Oddfellow had his own haunted house, but also each of the 5 scare zones kind of tied into his overall story, and that was kind of how he was connected to the event. Scare zones, no offense to the creative team, no offense to anyone who helps with the event, and no offense to people who like these scare zones, but the way I kind of see them is they feel very Creature of the Week to me, like Buffy or X-Files or whatever other type of sci-fi show you may watch where there's, you know, they got this one very cool monster for one episode and then it's gone and they kind of move on to the next thing, generally speaking. And that's kind of the vibe I get with HHN scare zones. Not always in a bad way. Sometimes they can pull it off really, really well. But this would be a great way to kind of execute that Creature of the Week concept. You've got Boris Schuster, who we already saw in Case Files Unearthed, amongst other appearances, that has this entire pantheon of just wild and crazy monsters. Why not have those be the scare zones? Tie it in. Tie it all together. That also, again, kind of depends on, are we going to see any IPs as scare zones this year? Could something like Blumhouse get its own mashup zone? Or could Five Nights at Freddy's appear as a scare zone and not a haunted house? I don't know if I'm necessarily sold on either of those, but I'd be more willing to think that we get something like a Blumhouse mashup zone of greatest hits, something like that, with previews of whatever's coming up in their movies. But I think, just off my personal opinion, it's a little more likely to get something like Case Files, where the Boris and all of that is what ties those monsters and ties those scare zones together. And please, if that happens, let me see Boris in person. Give him his own little, like, meet and greet in New York in front of his office. Like, oh, that'd be so good. Yeah, it does bring in Bloody Mary. You are right, Derek. I was waiting to see if anyone was going to bring up his connection to 2008, because we've been looking at that not only in the Discord, but I've been doing it for trivia research anyways. Excuse me. But I don't really know what they can do with Bloody Mary since there was the whole lawsuit. And for those of you who don't know, for some reason, somebody sued Universal over the use of Bloody Mary as 2008's icon. So they can't really refer to Bloody Mary in any capacity. I think legally they can still refer to Dr. Mary Agna, which was her name, her human non-supernatural counterpart, her Clark Kent or whatever, but I don't think they have, just because it's not the line that they want to skirt, which I can understand. But go look up the lawsuit if you haven't, because I honestly can't remember why it was a thing in the first place, but I would love to see Bloody Mary make it back to the event in some capacity. But yeah, 24A, definitely hoping that it's something comic book or Legendary Truth related. Do I necessarily think it's going to be something black and white and comic booky? Not really. Like, Universal takes risks, but they don't always take risks that are big enough, if that makes sense. Just trying to think of how a comic-y book comic-y haunt could look like. The only real thing that I'm thinking or seeing is kind of the facade that was whatchamacallit, Revenge of the Tooth Fairy in 2020 and 2021, where it's like this storybook. But yeah, LA Noir vibe. But I just feel like it would be such a huge aesthetic departure from anything that Universal has done before, which isn't a bad thing. That would be a stellar thing in my opinion. But are we likely to see something that is that radical of a departure without seeing something more in between? Also a very good haunt. No, I don't think so, unfortunately. But there's plenty of avenues they could go down if this is a clue to the Legendary Truth or Boris Schuster. So I would say this is going to be the one to look at, folks. This might be my HHN #1 of all time if it shows up like it potentially could. So that's, I think, as much as I should say on that one. Now moving on to 24B, was it? Yes. We see the lollipop. Everybody who's played video games knows that Universal owns Nintendo now, which very obviously means that this is going to be a Kirby haunted house. See, you can even see the little lollipop right there in my Kirby diorama. I don't know how well this is showing up, but without that little star on top, but that would be too much of a giveaway. Nah, I wish it was Kirby, but I don't think it will. When my boy Nick gets his Luigi's Mansion haunt, maybe I'll get my Twisted Kirby haunt, but that's likely not going to happen. A lot of people seem to think Major Sweets, and I think that would be a decent possibility. My only counter kind of to that is, if you look at all the originals, they seem to have some type of connection to haunts in the past. And unless it's an anniversary year, that really doesn't happen. Normally there's more original concepts that are standing on their own and aren't related to anything else. And I'm trying to think how many, if we've ever had more than 2 original sequels or mashups in a single year. And I don't really know if we have outside of anniversary years. But I would be betting on the fact that that skull is somehow relating to a sequel or continuation of an original haunt. So I don't necessarily know if Major Sweets would be a bigger draw to be able to trump that, if that makes sense. One thing that would be really cool for me, though, if they did do Major Sweets, I don't know if they would necessarily do the factory itself and going through that. I would picture it something a little more like Halloween, going through the suburban town with the after effects of all of the chaos that's going on. Something kind of like Halloween and Trick or Treat's aesthetic design with the suburban houses, and then you throw in a little bit of psychoscarapy there with the just off the wall. Oh, sorry, I put the apostrophe on the wrong side. You get something like whatever I was just saying. God, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, but you get something kind of like Trick or Treat or Halloween where you got that suburban aspect, and then you've got something maybe like the ending of Blood Moon where it just goes way off the walls with like one big crazy set piece, or you've kind of got like the carnage of Psycho Scarapy Home for the Holidays in 2007 where they've gone through the suburban houses and just destroyed it. That's gotta be a good... Is there not a good... Trying to show a picture of like the suburban area of Trick or Treat, but I can't find a good one. I think there, for some reason, are though some good ones in Psycho Scarapy Home for the Holidays. Hopefully none of this is going to be too graphic on this page for me to get blocked, but I guess, you know, we're all going to find out together. Woohoo! Alright. So yeah, kind of something like this, where I'm not going to linger too long for reasons, but something where you're going through kind of just, yeah, here's some, okay, here's some semi-nice, not as graphic ones, there we go, where you're going through scenes that kind of look like this. I do think it would be a little ironic, oh, I just saw your message, Mom. It'd be a little ironic if they did something Wonka gone crazy, considering the fact that they just had that big Wonka experience that failed, but I don't necessarily know if that would be something, I don't know, that just seems a little too much like The Simpsons already did it, coincidental, for me. And I just don't know necessarily how they would pull off the industrial environment. Maybe something like 2014's AVP, but it seems, a factory seems like something that would either be very generic or very effects heavy with no real in-between, and it's going to kind of come down to how much budget do they have, because I don't think if they have a big enough budget to do a big chocolate factory and they can't find a good concept on trying to make it more suburban focused, I don't necessarily know what I see of the chances of it at the event are. With that, I'm going to be moving on to Fast and Furious for our unknown IP. Now, I've talked a little bit about how maybe it's going to be Abigail, because if Abigail isn't already a haunt, just because of how popular it is. Other option as well is Blumhouse. We cannot forget that Blumhouse did post something back in, God, what was that, January? Where they made like a checklist of everything that you had to do this year. And it was more or less a promotion for a lot of their movies, but one of the boxes on it was also visit Halloween Horror Nights. Now, maybe that's just because they've had such strong partnerships in the years past that it's just a nice little nod or a nice little bit of synergy, or maybe it's a teaser that there is going to be something Blumhouse at the event, whether it's a show, scare zone, meet and greet, or museum, kind of like last year's, whatever you call it, that was in the DreamWorks Theater, but it seems pretty obvious that in some capacity, Blumhouse is going to be at the event. So, unknown IP, that could very easily be on Tours of Blumhouse, I guess technically Volume 4, even though Black Phone and Freaky wasn't called Volume 3, but semantics. It could be on any one of their original movies that are coming out this year or just recently came out. I mean, personally, I would think it would be really cool if they did a Totally Killer Haunt, because that movie was really funny and really entertaining and actually had me like on my seat for a few of the chase scenes. But I don't think it was that successful. You also have to remember Blumhouse has Megan, which was proven to be very popular recently. Insidious just came out with its last film 6 months ago, but the rights are still there, and I don't think if they did Insidious, anyone would be like, oh no, they're doing Insidious. Like, that's still a big enough draw. I think everything else, I think that covers most of it, but I do think I've cracked the code on this original one, though. There is one singular, property that I feel like has just skyrocketed to fame over the last few years. Like, even people who aren't into horror know what this property is because of just how terrifying and innovative and engrossing it is. It's gotten so many views by so many people all over the world. Of course, I am talking about Skibbity toilet, my dudes. I don't know how I got through that without breaking, to be honest. I just, you know, my wife got this for me for Christmas as a gag, and I saw it while I was cleaning today, and I was like, you know, low-key, Skibbity Toilet would kind of be a boppin' house. Like, it would be really, like, liminal spaces weird, like, Skinamarink weird, but it would be really funny still. Also, Dreamport Productions, this one's for you after I was trolling on your stream last week about Skibbity coming to HHN. Maybe one day, man. Maybe one day we'll get Skibbity. But as for the rest of what this unknown IP could be, chat's blowing up with me and Skibbity Toilet. I'm just kidding. I know it's not Skibbity Toilet. I just had to do the bit for my, you know, if he needed to do it. I can't explain it. But a few of the other properties that I was speculating back in the day, I talked about Scream already. Now that Scream is stable, I don't think it's going to be Scream. The only other notable Blumhouse production to talk about would be their remake of The Wolfman that is coming out in October, towards the end of October, so it would only be released for like the last maybe 2 weeks of the event, so it would have to be kind of like a preview if we did a haunt, which back in 2009 they did the same thing for that Wolfman haunt. It was kind of like a preview of the house before the movie came out, and was very well received and done very well. And with Blumhouse's and Universal synergy, I can't necessarily see them not having full access to the arsenal of tools they would need to make that haunt successful, if that makes sense. 2014's Dracula Untold sucked because there was no communication between the team making the film and HHN's designers. So they got a script like before the movie even started filming, and there was so many rewrites and so many reshoots and so much stuff that changed that the haunt was pretty much completely 180 from the movie just because they didn't have the up-to-date stuff to work with, and it was just kind of like they were winging it. Not in a bad way, but, you know, given the resources that they they put together a pretty decent haunt, but if they would have had all of the resources, it would have worked a lot better. And again, with the Wolfman being Blumhouse, I don't foresee that being any type of issue. So maybe that becomes our unknown IP. You know, we don't really have an original, at least in this spec lineup that I'm currently doing, there isn't really an original Monsters, classic Monsters haunt. They're reimaginings or offshoots or something. So this could continue that trend of it being kind of like I don't want to say the B Squad monsters, but, you know, the variants, or lack of a better term. All right, moving on. We're going to go to Sprung. Oh, wait, just kidding. There is one other thing I wanted to talk about for this unknown IP. I've mentioned it plenty of times. Ghostbusters comes out on Thursday, 2 days from now. Well, Friday, Thursday, whatever. There's another movie that's coming out this week that we might see first that also has very good buzz so far. And that is Late Night with the Devil. Hopefully I'm going to be seeing it on Thursday. I'm trying to see what showtimes are. But that's another one of those indie films that has potential to make a really big splash on the horror community. And would it necessarily translate into big crowd numbers? I don't necessarily know, but it could be one of those IPs that they could acquire the rights for pretty quick. They could do theoretically not super big and detailed haunt on it, and they could do a lot of really cool things for not a lot of money. I don't think it's necessarily off the table, but I also don't really think it's on the table. It's just one of those nice little wishful thinking haunts or ideas of like, you know, it might make a splash. It might be pretty cool. Kind of be like saying if Talk to Me was going to get a haunt, but I don't think that's going to happen either, unfortunately. Welcome back, Skull and Spooky. What did you miss? We're about to go on to Sprung 3. We talked about the 6 left. Skibbity Toilet's going to be in Fast and Furious for sure. Maybe Kirby or Major Sweets in 24B. 24A is probably going to be Legendary Truth or Boris Schuster related in some capacity. And Ghostbusters for 23B. Sprung 3, we have the quiet symbol with an IP. Now, this can mean two things. A Quiet Place or Silent Hill. Universal is opportunistic. We know that. They're a company. They want to make as much money as possible. Silent Hill was supposed to / might still have a new movie coming out this year. Don't really know that. The last I saw was that it was supposed to come out in April, but that was months ago, and there's been no updates on it, and I guess it's just been sitting in, production hell for the last however many months. So Silent Hill isn't really big for the pop culture crowd, or the popular crowd, I should say. Silent Hill 2 remake is going to be coming out in plenty of video games, so within the gaming community, Silent Hill is semi-popular right now, but it's not popular enough that the general public will look at it as a surefire draw to the event, if that makes sense to anyone. Sorry if I'm bad at formulating my thoughts, but I just don't think Silent Hill is a household name quite yet. Maybe if this new movie is successful, it gets out there a little bit more, but I think since it's been so long since it's been relevant in the whole of pop culture, it's not going to be Silent Hill. But as Derek just posted in chat, I think it is going to be 100, well, I shouldn't say 100%. Given the two choices, if I had to choose between Silent Hill or A Quiet Place Day One, I would 100% choose A Quiet Place Day One. Now, I think this is coming out in June, according to the bottom of the poster that I think is cut off for you guys. So it's not like it's releasing too far out. I mean, realistically, HHN might start at the end of August, so this is only 2 months before when HHN would start, which is crazy to think about. But it just makes sense. Again, third one in the series, a series that's been at the forefront of horror for pretty much since it came out 5-6 years ago, however long it was. And not only is it a property that's popular, it's something that does something unique. It's something that could rely a lot heavier on puppets and volume dynamics and things that we don't often see in HHN haunted houses, spare for maybe once a year if we are lucky. I think it's going to... I was thinking about this today, for those monsters, I feel like it would be kind of like a combination of, remember the giant bug from the end of Bugs Eaten Alive when you went under that spider? I envision a combination of that size and scale. I don't know what that would be, a tunnel experience, vignette, something. I imagine something of that scale combined with the Alien versus Predator or American Werewolf puppets for the close-ups. I feel like they could do it so well. And something that I talked about in my last stream was that volume dynamics will cancel out really any issues with it not being quiet. We've all been to HHN, or we at least have... We all at least have an idea of how loud HHN is. When you're inside of those haunts, it's never going to be dead quiet. Quiet is going to be when you don't hear somebody screaming their lungs off. But that still is something that works well in a haunted house. You can still make that your baseline silent and then make every other room slightly louder to combat it, One room that has, think of Fiesta de Chupacabras, the room with the rattling chicken cage and the tag team scare is going to be a lot louder than when you go into the house at the end and it's just the guy watching his TV with one actor trigger, you know? If a room has a lot of actor triggers, a lot of animatronics, any pneumatic air effects, those are going to be so much louder compared to when you're just walking through a scene and all you can hear is the music and maybe the occasional trigger of the actors coming out. You know, they can play on that volume dynamics just well enough that they can sell the Quiet Place concept. So I don't think that's a reason that you would want to discount it. Like, I don't think it's not going to happen because they can't make it quiet, if that makes sense. Also, Graveyard Games in 2019, Haunting of Hill House in, 2020 and 2021. I don't know why I forgot what came after 19. And The Last of Us last year, they all had soundproofed hallways, specifically designed to cut out as much noise as possible so the creepy, silent ambience of the scares would be more effective. That's always a possibility for a few of the scenes that they do need to be quiet. Derek, I agree, A Quiet Place becoming one of the most anticipated this spec. Like, it's one of those curveball IPs that you don't normally get, and I'm just really stoked to see what they would do with something. It feels like a break from the norm, which is awesome. Skull and Spooky, yeah, I agree to an extent. Silent Hill has potential. I don't know if I'd say I'd rather have Five Nights. I'll be honest. I think Five Nights could be good, but I don't think it would ever top Silent Hill. Oh, Derek Jackson, yeah, bro. If you didn't watch, I think you already said you watched my final countdown, but like, I could have talked about that final scene in Graveyard Games, that hallway and like the kids' candle room. Could have talked about that for hours on how effective and how great it was. That was one of the best haunted house scenes I've ever been through at HHN, not just at HHN, but just everywhere. Like, it was so good. Yeah, see, and you didn't even notice that Skull and Spooky also makes a good point. Some people don't even notice that there was soundproofing in the walls because it's an effect that works that well. It's not something super, super obvious, but it does its trick subliminally. All right, so that's kind of my thing on Quiet Place. I did say that I think some of these might change places, and I don't think A Quiet Place would do, unless it's one of these new sprung tents that's specifically built with HHN in mind, with a little more space and a little more, I don't know what the correct word, functionality, I guess, would be. I can't really see them doing A Quiet Place, which will probably have some type of puppetry in a sprung tent. I think they used them in 2007's The Thing Assimilation, but I can't really recall a time when a lot of puppets were used in a sprung tent haunt. I mean, we got the lion last year in Dr. Oddfellow, and when he was used in Nightingale's Blood Pit also, I think. But like, a lot of puppets in a tent, I just don't know if it would work. I think it would be better in a soundstage. At least, that's just my opinion. I am going to skip over this one, Unknown Original, just because it could be literally anything. If we want to look at the patterns of everything else that I've speculated, everything seems to, all the originals seem to have some type of connection to a past HHN haunt or scare zone or store. In them, so we could speculate that maybe it's going to be something in the same vein of a quasi-sequel or Easter egg or mashup or something like that, but without really knowing a theme or a headliner or a lot of the foundational information, it's kind of hard to know where to start. The only things I will kind of say I don't see is Poseidon's Fury. It's just way too soon after it closed. The nostalgia factor really isn't there. I mean, the facade is still standing. Like, you can still see the best part of the ride. Oops, did I say that out loud? Oops. But I just don't think there's the demand for it. It's one of those that would be probably really cool. Are you biting my foot? It's one of those that I think would be really cool and really effective, and there's a lot of great ideas for how it could be done, But when you're looking at kind of the last year before Epic Universe, when their crowds might not be as big as they were before because people are saving up to go next year, for example, can you not bite my computer? Sorry, everyone. Nixie decided to bat this right over the power cord for my PC and was just biting it and trying to tug it out. So I had to deal with that first. What was I talking about? I don't even remember now. Babe, what was I talking about?
I don't remember.
Oh,
Pay attention to Nick. I'm sorry.
you're not a good wingman. I'm a bad streamer. I don't remember anything. Maybe it'll come back to me, or chat will say something, give it a... Oh yeah, last year before Epic Universe is opening, so potentially people are going to be holding off on their trips this year because they're going to save up to see it next year when Epic happens. They're going to need all 10 of those slots to be something that's compelling, something that's going to draw someone in that otherwise might not, and I don't think Poseidon's Fury is necessarily big enough of a contender to pull people in like that. And that's just my opinion. I mean, if we're looking at all quasi-sequels, or if we're looking at a lot that's connected to HHN Past, I think that nostalgia is a lot higher than what the nostalgia for Poseidon's Fury is right now. Yeah, Poseidon's Fury also isn't really scary. I feel like they could make it very atmospheric and very mythological heavy, but that's kind of the next one over. And I feel like with the lighting and the scenic design, they could find a way to make it scary, but I feel like the actual, execution of the scenes and the scares would feel even less scary than Dragons did last year, which was pretty not scary, unfortunately. But that can hopefully all be remedied when we get to Sprung 2 is that one. Sprung 1. My eyesight's apparently going. What is it going to be? I don't know. Looks something mythological. Again, I know we've talked about Dr. Oddfellow before, but he did have Minotaur Dude in his Carnival arsenal last year. So maybe somehow that connects to Dr. Oddfellow's Carnival or Dr. Oddfellow's Army. Maybe it's Dr. Oddfellow's Army of Creatures versus Jack's Maniacs, Jack's Minions. Maybe that's where this clue goes to. Or maybe that goes back to our unknown original in the previous one that I just talked about. I think it's too obvious that Dr. Oddfellow or Jack will make some type of appearance. It just, at least to me, it makes sense logistically based off the way the crowds and everything have been going. Spears in the back, yeah. And I'm assuming that just means it's more towards a battle type concept. Less less like location or time period clue, and more to something like Nightingale's Blood Pit, where it was specifically you were in the Gladiator Coliseum during their battles and whatnot, and underneath it. So that's kind of why I feel like, or I see this, and I don't think general mythology or just a Minotaur. I think of something that puts these creatures into battle, whether it's just a mythological battle of creatures, whether it is some connection to Oddfellow. But I see it more than just, being a Minotaur and just leading us to like Hades Gates of Ruin 2.0, where you just kind of do a greatest hits of all of the myths that everyone knows. Cool and spooky, giving you football mascot vibes. Okay. That's definitely a hot take, but I think I like it. I think I like it more than... No, I don't like it more than the other one, but that reminds me of Alice Cooper, the sports scene from Alice Cooper in 2022. That would be really funny if it was like a high school slasher, totally killer, or something like the Delta Epsilon Delta sorority from the beginning of 2018 Slaughter Cinema. I like where we're thinking. Oh, Baklava Code, yeah. I'll be honest, Derek, I haven't really looked at the code names too much. Maybe it would have helped a little bit for Spec, but I feel like those code names at this point are just getting so absurd and so obscure that overthinking is going to make it harder than not. Like, you know what I mean? If you have extra information, you're going to read into it more than you would have if you just didn't. Coaster thrills, why do you... I feel like the clown hallways, despite the black... You know, honestly, Coaster Thrills, I rank it so low because a lot of the other haunts were just better. It's not necessarily because those last few rooms were that bad. It's just because everything else that was ahead of it did it that much better. I'm also going to be updating those rankings just a little bit as I redo the series for this summer, just because I've grown a lot as an editor in the last year, and I feel like... You know, that worst haunts ever video is still my #1 rated video, and it's one of the first ones I did, so I feel like I can do it a lot better and reach a lot more people. So maybe Poltergeist will get moved up a little bit, but I just feel like there was more effective avenues that they could have gone through. The finale I really liked, where it was just kind of like the, the dark... ominous, like, foggy, cloaked figures, but I feel like the momentum going into... The momentum with that count scene just kind of killed it. Yeah, it was kind of detailed, but to me it was, you know, the most obvious thing that they could have done to make this clown scary, if that makes sense. Not trying to, you know, over-explain or anything, I just know that I'm not always good at being direct and getting my point across. But a lot of the haunts that I rank low, it's not necessarily because I don't like them. It's normally just because I've seen something done different or better, and I feel like that originality should get bonus points over something simple, unless it's something simple that works really well, if that makes sense. All right, and finally, before we get on to exciting announcement time and whatever, is Sprung 4. You know, it's been said that it's the Nightmare on Elm Street. I would buy that. It's the 40th anniversary of Nightmare on Elm Street and Gremlins this year. And again, between Nightmare on Elm Street and Gremlins, if we're going through our nostalgia bait, I think Gremlin gets it. We've probably already got Beetlejuice or Ghostbusters as our, like, more family-friendly haunt, less intense scares, I guess I should say. So that kind of knocks out Gremlins, and I just think Freddy as a whole has a bigger audience than Gremlins does as well, so I think that's 2 strikes right there. And I think the third strike is... Nobody liked Chucky last year. Nobody acknowledged how good the puppet work and the costuming and the animatronic was in Chucky because everything else was so subpar. So I don't think people would be either, 1, willing to give Gremlins a chance, or 2, would just automatically think it wouldn't be scary. Or 3, the animatronics would just be so freaking expensive to do right that it takes budget from something else that could be better. So I think there's plenty of strikes, unfortunately. Hi, Vanessa. You're late. You're going to get demerit. Gremlins on Elm Street. Yes, mother. I would like that, actually. That'd be pretty cool. I would love it. I would love for them to take these stupid IPs and mash them up into something even stupider. Like, that would be my dream HHN event. Skull and Spooky, HHN. Yeah, bro. Halloween 2022 is going to be my legacy, man. Like, one day I'm going to meet the guy who designed it, and I'm going to say something stupid and put my foot in my mouth, and he's going to be like, oh, I worked really hard on that. And then I'm going to feel awful because I don't hate the people who made it. I just don't, like, man, the concept just failed so hard to me. Like, it just, lack of originality is just all I think of when I think of that haunt. Yeah, I agree as roller coaster thrills. Like, those puppets, the first... Well, I guess that was what? Like, the second quarter of the haunt with those puppets? Like, those dudes were big and they were agile. And I guess I kind of wish that's what I saw in the clown scene. I saw something more like walking through the twisted suburban hallways, but you had, like, the clown's arms stretching out as puppet, like, controlled by puppeteers, and you get something cool effect like that. You'd see something that was on the same caliber as those puppets and not just a guy falling down from the ceiling that kind of looks like a spirit animatronic and some black holes with paint, at least. Derek, I agree. Cabana Bay Photo Op was definitely better than The House, which is sad to say. Skull and Spooky. I liked Chucky, I just didn't love it. Like I said, I liked the effects work and the face value, but the sets and the overall concept was murked, and there's a lot of things that they didn't do right. But I don't think it's one of the worst they've ever done. I just think it's not good, if that makes sense. And Coaster Thrills, do I think Freddy House and Sprung Tent could be like 2014? Yes. So getting back to the points that I was going to get to before I went on my tangents, because that's my entire personality. I don't know if you guys have noticed that yet. I think it would pretty much be like the 2014 Haunt for Halloween, which for those of you who didn't go, it was a book report of the original 1978 film after the sanitarium. So basically just focusing on Michael's rampage through Haddonfield. But it was a very faithful adaptation. I think it was more faithful than the 2022 adaptation was, because it had, what's her name? Annie's death, where she's in the garage and she gets strangled. And I think that's what we would see if we get a Nightmare on Elm Street haunt. Now, we did see Freddy almost a decade ago. Hasn't quite been a decade, but 2015's Freddy vs. Jason haunt, to me, was just not very good. Actually, I'll show this first, that's fine. It was as soon as you got into Freddy's haunt, there was just so many vignettes. And it was like they were trying to cram all of everything that Freddy's ever done into a single half of a haunted house, and it didn't work. And Freddy wasn't scary because all it was looking at dummies of Freddy's victims, and none of the moments landed because the focus, again, was just on stuffing all of these ideas in and not really drawing them out or executing them in a impactful way. I'm trying to see if I can find any here. So, these are going to be really low res, but back in the day, what can you do? But, you literally are walking by and you see this guy from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and then right on the other side is this chick from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and then there she is again, and then I think this was also Nightmare on Elm Street 3. You got Worm Freddy. And this is all literally in the span of, 10 feet on either side of you, and I think it just was too much to be effective. So I think that, 2014's Halloween back to basics approach, just focus on what Freddy was 40 years ago, which was freaking scary. I think that's going to be the way to make it work. The question is, how well can they do some of these effects within a sprung tent? And honestly, just me thinking about it as I've been talking the last 2 minutes, I think it might be more viable for a sprung tent than I initially imagined. You think about Freddy stretching through the wall at the beginning of the film, doing that. They've done similar effects with that in Insidious in 2015, and that haunt freaking stuffed the footprint to the max. They got so much stuff in. We've seen animatronics in the haunt with bugs last year. For anything weird that they might want to do. We've seen ceilings. The Poe scene from Nevermore in 21, I showed you guys, had ceilings before. So they could do something like Glenn Lance's Blood Fountain and just do it in a completely enclosed room. The more I think about it, the more I think that they could do a lot of this stuff in any type of location and not just a soundstage. So, and I think that helps as well with the overall possibility. You can't really do something like Gothic, or it's another big one that I'm or Dead Man Pier Winter's Wake. You can't really do something of that scale the same way in a sprung tent, if that makes sense. So that kind of makes the viability of some projects a little iffier, but A Nightmare on Elm Street, I think it could be done in any type of location, so that makes it a little bit better. Plus, the thing that I was originally going to get to before I went down that tangent was the little stars and moon that you guys see on the spec map for him, the 2 stars on the left and the moon, and then the 1 star on the right, that is exactly the same as the 2007 Sleepwell company that was in that Freddy haunt, Dreamwalkers. So yeah, you can see 2 stars on the left, 1 on the right, 2 on the left, 1 on the right. So that pretty much confirms it for me that it's going to be Freddy of some type. But I would love Dreamwalkers back, honestly. I don't know if anyone here ever went through 2007's Dreamwalkers. I don't think I have any fans that have been going for that long, besides Amanda 1.0, who probably already tuned out. But there's a surprising amount of pictures of them on the wiki, and, like, this looks nuts. Like, it was a loose adaptation of the series. Didn't really seem to follow any specific movie, so it just kind of referenced some of the big set pieces. But, like, this was what they did for Glenn's death with his bed, except for they had it on its side, so you're walking through that bed sheet as a transition to the next room. I don't know. I just thought that was really cool. You can tell you can tell where the floor is because it's the dirty soundstage floor. But man, that's just such a cool concept. I think of when we could do this haunt. Welcome back, Josh. If I didn't say that already, I read it, but I don't know if I consciously said it out loud. Yeah, I agree with you. But hey, you're on the West Coast, so you got the goated Chucky haunt. You got the best Chucky haunted house we'll ever see. I mean, hopefully not, but probably, to be sadly realistic. That was so good. Would be funny. Yeah, it would be true, Skull and Spooky. Could you imagine the fan shirts and the fan merchandise if we had Freddy and Freddy in the same year? Like, that would be nuts.
That scene is where my friend broke my cell phone screen because I had a flip razor and he crashed into a wall and it smashed into the wall.
Can you come... Do you want to come around and say... Okay. My wife said that this is the scene where her phone got broken because her friend got scared and smashed it into a wall. I don't know how much that got picked up, but... Hey, Josh, I think Stranger Things was worse than Chucky. TBH, I think Stranger Things is my number 10. I still never did my full review, but you guys will see it on the countdown in a couple of months when I add those to there. Oh yeah, Coaster Thrills, 100%. That's a good point. Don't remember his exact name. Dylan something, I believe. But last year's Blood Moon and not Dead Man's Pier, Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins, they were both designed by the same designer, which I think is funny because those were my 2 favorite haunts last year. But he also did Dead Man's Pier Winter's Wake in 2022, which... And I don't know what else he's done. But, like, man, the growth from Dead Man's Pier to Blood Moon, like, I can't see what that... Like, whatever that dude makes this year is going to be nuts. And I'm so excited for it. And if you're watching, I love you. Thank you for everything you do for the community. Let's see. Skull and Spooky. It's okay. It's never too late to start. Only with HHN starting in 2021. 2021 was a great year. These last 2, I think, have better... I think 2021 and 2022 were better than 17 through 20... Or 27 through 30. Yeah. 31 and 32 were better than 27 through 30, for the most part, in my opinion. So you're starting at a good time. Yeah, I agree, Josh. I would have loved to see last year's Hollywood Chucky in Orlando, because that was so good. Goated haunt. Yeah, Chucky sounds like it's coming back to Hollywood. Not going to complain about that, Derek. Like, that's great for me, because it was such a good haunt. I just hope that it's done good, or better than it was last year. At the very least, just got to at least match last year's quality, if not improve upon it. It's okay, Skull and Spooky. You're allowed to have Stranger Things as your favorite. I'm not going to be mad at you or kick you out of the club. I just personally, I'm how do I say I'm a jerk without saying I'm a jerk? No, I'm kidding, but I just have very high expectations. When I go to Halloween events, like, I want to see something that I haven't seen before, and I want to see something that I feel like I couldn't have done a better job of doing. I don't have that much experience of doing stuff. I just have a lot of big ideas and a lot of theories on how things should go, if that makes sense. So when I see these haunts where I'm like, I don't know that much, but I think I could make something scarier than this, that's when I get cranky, and that's when I go on my tangents. Or when I go to like HH in Hollywood in 2021, or was it 20, I don't remember. Whenever they had Curse of Pandora's Box, and there was one scene that was literally just black walls with the like $3 cheese net cloth that you get at Spirit Halloween stapled on the walls, like that was it. Like that made me mad because I was like, I could do so much better than that for like $10 even. Anyways, off that soapbox now. But that's kind of what I felt about Stranger Things, was that I could have done better with a lot less if I was given the opportunity. But again, some of these are contracts, some of these are stuff that are out of the designer's control. We will never know unless we are a part of it, but I always think of the what ifs. Yeah, ain't it insane? Coaster Thrills? Nuts. Yeah, Josh, you said it, not me. Six Flags quality. Like, this is why I rip on Hollywood's event, was from the black hallways and just the seeming lack of budget. Good ideas, but like Murdy has shown the great, incredible things. Like that Alien Queen puppet that I didn't get to see that was at the end of 2014's Alien vs. Predator. Like that looks like one of the most nuts things I've ever seen in any haunted house. So like, why did Curse of Pandora's Box look like it came from the worst Six Flags part in some of it? It's like, that's what sets me off. Ooh. So it was 2019?
Yeah, because I didn't go because I was planning.
That was 5 years. You act like I abandoned you during wedding planning. I told you could have had a vacation for 3 weeks to stop stressing. We only were gone for like 3 days. You would have been fine. Anyways, so those are my HHN 33 thoughts. If you guys have anything else you want to discuss or add, let me know. I did promise I was going to be making some special announcements and everything, as I sound like I just smoked 20 packs a day because I'm not used to talking to people. Can you get me a drink, please? Thanks. You're the best. Also, Pixie, say hi. We're going to go to me. Why is this up now? Why do you cats keep stepping on my cords? Say hi to everyone, Pixie. Or run away. Or jump on the keyboard. But special announcements. Woohoo! I don't have the official time for this yet because I still need to kind of figure out how much work I'm going to get done this week. But March 28th, which is a day of the week that I already forgot. It's a Friday, right? Where's my calendar? Windows 11 is scary. Yes, March 28th, which is a Thursday. We will be celebrating the 1 year of this channel, just a few days early because I have to work over the weekend. But we are going to be playing trivia, but not HHN trivia. We are going to be playing 6 Billion trivia, where you guys, if you want to participate live, you are going to be able to, hopefully, knock on wood, because I hope this software works, but we will do live trivia where you guys can actually participate, keep your own scores, we'll have a leaderboard, and it's going to be about me, my life, my interests. It just seems like a fun way of getting to know the community a little bit more and you guys getting to know me without just doing something as simple as hi, I'm 6 Billion, here's my life story video, if that makes sense. It's a more organic way so I can go on like fun tangents and fun anecdotes and stories and inspirational life messages, whatever you guys want. So I'm super excited about that. We're going to start off with that HHN, with 6 Billion trivia, and then maybe we'll move into a little more HHN speculation talk. Maybe we'll talk about some of my favorite houses for a little bit. Thank you, babe. But afterwards, we are going to be playing a very nostalgic video game. So I don't know if any of you guys are like me, but I'm still stuck in the 2000s. If I would give up my PS5, I'd give up my PS3 and beyond and only play GameCube and PS2 games and GBA games until I died if I had the choice. So, I'm going to be playing a nostalgic game on stream, and I hope that's something I also hope to do a little bit more of in the future. I'm not going to turn into a gaming channel, but, you know, after I spend 10, 12 days working on an HHN video, or 10 to 12 hours in a day working on an HHN video, sometimes I just want to not think about HHN or play video games. Do something to relax and let my mind kind of wander. But I also want to be able to do that with you guys. I know not everyone is going to be tuning in, and that's totally fine. But, you know, I want to be able to interact with the people who I care about and the people who helped me get here more than just, you know, when I'm on and it's HHN time. You know, you feel me? So, I'm not going to tell you which nostalgic video game it is because it's going to give away one of the answers to the 6 billion trivia questions that we'll also be doing. But it's going to be one of my favorites. If you like GameCube, PS2 era games, you're going to love it. And you've probably already played it 100,000 million times, just like I have. And maybe, just maybe, for 6 billion trivia, I will give away some prizes for the people who are top scoring and not involved in my life directly. Looking at you, scaredy cats. Hacking the results. But I still have to see if there's any prizes that I have to give out. So, that was that anniversary announcement, birthday announcement, whatever. Like, I'm going to be super sentimental because I can't believe that I've been doing this for a year. And I've been given the opportunities to do this for a year. Like, that's just still nuts to me. I gotta go back, chat. Sorry. Do you peep background on the symbol? If something's Lady Luck related, I'll cry. Let's be honest. Lady Luck, Stop shaking your head. 2011 was the best year, just because I didn't go to 2008, though. Skull and Spooky, what previous HHN event? Oh, 2008. 100%. Never got to go to it. Widely regarded as one of the best years ever between the scare zones and the haunts. Like, I still base off the 8 haunt system when I do my rankings because that's when I started going in 2010. So, like, if an event year has 8 good haunts and 2 bad ones, that's perfectly fine for me because the best year I ever went to only had 8 good haunts. So, like, that's the only benchmark that I expect each year is 8 haunts that are good and 2 that maybe are more experimental or don't work. But 2011 is the only year where I feel like every single haunt was, like, not just good, but, like, excellent. And the only other year I've heard of those same sentiments is 2008, which was also more heavily focused on original content than it was on IPs, which is why it might take slight precedence over 2007, Carnival of Carnage for me. Yeah, Derek, you prefer a live format for trivia? Prefer a live format for trivia? Yeah, once HHN Trivia as well gets rolling, I'm planning on maybe doing 1 or 2 live streams a month of actual live HHN Trivia episodes, and then, you know, post the video the next day or something, so you guys get a sneak peek, and you can participate live and track your scores. But we'll have to see, because I kind of have to do it multiple choice live, and trivia is a lot easier when you have multiple choice instead of fill in the blanks, so I'll have to see on that. But I do want to do a lot more live trivia with you guys. Same Skull and Spooky. I just downloaded an emulator, so I can play pretty much anything, and I'm so excited. Yay. When am I coming to HHN this year, Derek? Don't know yet. If I'm lucky, hopefully it's going to be whatever opening weekend is, even if it's Labor Day. Theoretically, my job should be pretty flexible with my days off, so I hope leaving during a holiday weekend might be more plausible than not. But we're going to have to see. But I'll definitely be going at the beginning, either the first or second week, and then probably 1 or 2 other trips throughout the year, or throughout the month. Maybe like mid-October or something. I know I am showing my, what's the word? emo-ness, I guess. I am going to Vegas at the end of October because when me and Will and Shay have tickets for When You Were Young. Hi, Teeny. So basically, before the end of October is the best answer I can give you. But I'll kill to be there as soon as I can to opening. Oh, Skull and Spooky previous haunt? Oh, crap. To still answer your question, part of me wants to say Nightingale's Blood Prey just because I would love to see I would love for people to see what it was like because it was so groundbreaking. But if I have to choose a haunt that I never experienced, I don't know. Maybe SS Fratanic from 97 because it was a dual run. Maybe Run Hostile Territory because it seems like a more put together version of Run that I never got to see. Josh, I'll probably go opening weekend for sure. Yeah, and I would Coaster Thrills Dollhouse of the Damned 2. Hey, maybe that's what the Lollipop is. Or Unknown Original. Hopefully. Yeah, Josh, I'll let you know when we're going to HHN. Also, unrelated to chat, but I was actually telling Amanda today, I was like, yo, when we go to the West Coast, we should meet up with Josh and see if we could go to Knott's or HHM with him one night. So we might have to plan something if we're able to. But, yeah, it'd be so cool. All right. Now that our speculation is at least done for now, we're going to move on to what I'm sure everyone is most excited for. The preview of HHN Trivia. Woo! None of y'all cats are cheering. You're in this video. Be excited. So this is a, right now, bi-weekly, hopefully weekly soon, series that I'm planning on creating just purely out of my love for talking about HHN and for this community. And now I'm mad at you, Josh.
I'm so mad.
Sorry. Now I'm mad at you, Josh. I want to talk to you. Kidding. But HHN Trivia, I want to get as many episodes out as I can. They're never probably going to be more frequently than weekly, but I'm trying to get a good workflow done so I can do weekly releases and still get out fresh original content for you guys. If you've been following the channel, you know that February was poopy because my PC was gone for like 2 weeks and I was just having issues every day, so I lost out on a lot of time getting the project out by then, unfortunately, but that just gave me a month to be like, yo, I really want to do this. Gave me time to cement that this is what I want to continue doing with the rest of my life. So this is all of my passion and my love, and it's just me wanting to have fun with people who love HHN as I do. So I'm going to hopefully preview the first 5 minutes here, the first round or so for you guys right now on stream. And then it will be released sometime in the next 2 weeks. I don't know exactly when yet, but I'm going to give you guys a preview. For those of you who are in my Discord, if you are not, links down in the description, so you can join whenever you want, talk about HHN with us. But for those of you who will be in that Discord after the stream, we'll see how long it takes to actually get it onto YouTube, but after this stream, either tonight or tomorrow, I'll be uploading the full video for you guys to get a first peek at, and if you have any feedback or anything that you would like to see, just let me know. Any categories, anything? I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for you guys. When you send money, yeah, I know. I remember my dad laughing about that one, Skull and Spooky, the first time he went on it. He thought that was great. I still say that. Still quote that. I haven't tried doing this on stream yet, so I don't know if this is going to work the way I really want it to, but we're going to see if this starts playing, and if you guys don't hear anything, even though you're like 30 seconds behind me, let me know in the chat, and hopefully I can fix it. But here is the first round of HHN Trivia. I'm going to shut up for approximately 5 minutes, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome, friends and fiends, to HHN Trivia. I think I'm muted now. For 27 terrifying questions, I'll be your horrifying host, 6 Billiam, and whether you're here to test your HHN knowledge or simply learn some obscure facts about your favorite event,
Myself and the Scaredy Cats will ensure that you are in for a frightfully fun time. If you do choose to keep score, feel free to pause and take a look at the rules, or check them out in the description down below. Now, let's keep the formalities short and take a look at this week's categories. We'll explore general event knowledge for our history category, and for haunts, I'll show you a picture and you've got to guess which haunted house it's from. Spooky swag will consist of merchandise-related questions, and you can't have Halloween without pumpkins, specifically those that have to do with scare zones throughout the years.
I don't know if you guys can still hear me or not, but this is weird because I made it so I'm still on camera, but I also can't hear the video, so I don't know what's going on.
Which haunt it's from, but also which notable character said the line. Half the points for the haunt and half the points for the character. This wildcard category each week will always have 2 answers, so don't forget. But now, let's go ahead and get started on HHN Orlando for 100 and see how well you know your history. It took 30 years for this miscreant to get their own haunted house, but they headlined the very first event in 1991. Of course, it could be none other than Beetlejuice, who is officially the event's very first icon, but not the first original icon. And even though I wasn't crazy about all the vignettes crammed into the last half of the Beetlejuice haunt, I am hoping to see his manic energy return this year thanks to the release of Beetlejuice 2. Let's name that first haunt for 100. I promise I didn't just take a random picture of downtown Orlando, but the similarities are uncanny. Any guesses? Pittsburgh has definitely seen better days in last year's The Walking Dead The Last of Us. While there were some good subversions from the previous formula, I think that Orlando fundamentally misunderstood what made these 2 properties unique from each other. Anyways, on to spooky swag for 100. If you need a quick refresher on your icon lore, these drink glasses got you covered. They were featured during which event year?
Also, shout out to Amanda for her photography skills in this photo.
I'm sure plenty of us drowned our sorrows in these glasses after HHN was canceled in 2020. Now, the bad news. Unfortunately, our production budget wasn't big enough to get Tom Hanks to guest host this category. But anyways, here's pumpkins for 100. This adorable HHN mascot could be seen in artwork for Major Suite's wardrobe in 2022. It's the one and only Lil Boo, appearing on Major Suite's hat in his animated form. As legendary as he may be for his appearance in the Wicked Growth, Realm of the Pumpkin, that was not Lil Boo's first HHN appearance. I'm not going to tell you what was, but
yeah, I could try that, Josh. I'm trying not to speak too much because I don't want to interrupt the trivia.
As we listen
funny
between
jokes.
the screams for 100.
I just want to play on a big stage and become famous.
And one more time.
I just want to play on a big stage and become famous.
A nearly perfect haunt from last year, that was Pine Straw Spruce at the beginning of The Darkest Deal. It's still pretty amazing to me that one of the shortest haunts I've experienced managed to tell a more compelling and impactful narrative than something massive like Stranger Things. Long live Daddy Collector. Now that you know what to expect, let's ramp up that difficulty with Orlando history for 200. What was the first haunted house based off an IP to appear at the event? And real quick, IP stands for intellectual property, something like Chucky or Stranger Things, or even the Universal Monsters.
Oh,
something
I forgot to unmute myself. Oh well. I'll let you guys watch the first question of round 2 here, because I forgot to cut it off because I was watching the stream and not my actual playback. That's 20 seconds ahead, so
brought the
here you
intensity
go.
to HHN.
Don't say I never did anything nice for you.
Well, I can tell you it was scarier than that. With live roaches, fake blood being thrown everywhere, and maybe even a few real shotguns.
I don't know where I found that video from, but that was wild. Okay. And now it's going to reset the video, so even if I go back to it, we won't be able to continue on, so I got you, Josh. Let's go. So how was it, guys? Did you like it? How was the difficulty? Too intense? Too easy? You know, like I said, I'm trying to create this not just for myself, but for HHN fans. So I don't want to, you know, start off with stuff that's so easy that we all pretty much know it, or stuff that's so obvious that there's nothing really more to say about it other than what's already been said. I want to keep it interesting and new and fresh for you guys, so I try to not make it too easy, but also make it not too obscure or too difficult until at least a little bit later on. But seeing you guys type the answers in the chat made me so happy. That was like my I've started to make it moment. So I hope you all enjoyed. Josh, I know you said put a countdown in there. Yeah, I'll take a look at doing that. I tried to do it for like 4 to 5 second pause like Disney Jeopardy does for theirs, but I also tried not to directly copy and paste and make it a little more, you know, pizzazzed with that 6 billion flair. But the whole reason I didn't publish it right away is because I wanted to see what people thought and get those quality of life fixes. Hey, thanks, Josh. Skull and Spooky. Hey, only been going for 2 years and you got 5 HHN questions right? You're doing pretty good, my guy. You're doing pretty good. Gonna be natural at this. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, Derek, thank you. Yeah, there's stuff that I'm learning making some of these episodes that's wild. Also, make sure you guys brush up, not necessarily for this episode, but for future episodes. Legendary Truth, Boris Schuster, Legions of Horror is going to be a big one. Like, that stuff, the original lore from, like, the early teens HHN, that's going to be heavily included in the future. So I'll probably make a study guide or something and put it in my Discord, or maybe I'll just post, like, the Legions of Horror and have them whatever, like in the corner of the screen when I do questions or something like that, since it is going to be a little more obscure for some people who might be watching. But some people make big long video essays to preserve the history and talk about stuff that they love. I make trivia videos because I feel like it's just a better way, it's a better fit for me to get my thoughts and ideas and opinions out than it is. It's, you know, it what worked for me. And I'm super proud of it. Josh, you know, any interest in turning this into a game on the web recently? Maybe. Gotta be honest. We'll see where the wind takes us, but I didn't even think about that. But if there's people who are willing to help, I don't think I could turn that down. I could do it on past that, like, yeah. Have the answers go up like the day after the episode or something? And Derek, you like the little factoids? I'm glad. I tried to bounce between, like, adding on to, like, after each question, either adding on to it with, like, a relevant anecdote or fun fact or story, or adding a personal connection, I guess, personal connection or opinion to it. And 3, explaining something that I haven't explained on the channel before in my reviews or in my videos, and basically taking a new opinion instead of reskinning something I've originally said. So I try to bounce between all 3 of those, so that way you're getting different types of content with each question. You're not losing out on, you know, any of the entertainment just for facts, and you're not losing out on facts for entertainment, if that makes sense. Coaster Thrills, do I think the new sprung tents will be as good as the previous ones? No, I think they're going to be better. I think that they're probably going to be somehow flood-proof, in theory, and I'm assuming that ventilation might be slightly improved. I don't design the HHN houses, so I can't highlight or detail every single thing that goes wrong when building them, but I'm sure between 2007 or 2006 when they did those sprung tents, there's probably a few things that they've noticed that they wish they did a little bit differently, and I'm assuming / hoping that these 2 new sprung tents implement those and are basically like the new Game Plus version of the sprung tents, if that makes sense. Thanks, Josh, for the love. Yeah, Skull and Spooky. Maybe you can be my research assistants or something. We got to figure something out. But I've actually learned more about HHN on the wiki doing the research for this than I thought. Like, I thought I knew a lot about HHN just because it was like my hyperfixation for so long. And I do, but there's still some other stuff that I didn't know or that I misremembered, which is really cool to see. Yeah, Josh, let's do it. Plug yourself. Let's go. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to figure it out. I mean, we can chat more on Discord and try and figure something out too, but 2024 is... every time I say a year, I feel old. 2024 is the year of 6 billion, so let's do it. So with that, thank you to everyone who tuned in and stayed with me. I think I'm going to go ahead and tune out because I'm getting a little eepy because I'm old, and also I'm kind of hungry because I didn't really eat dinner. But if you guys have any final questions or any last things you want to hear me rant about or talk about, post them on in the chat, and then I'm going to skedaddle and keep working on more trivia for you guys. And thanks for watching the trivia and this stream. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I agree, Colby. I think if it's going to be Ghostbusters, I think it's going to be announced no later than 2 weeks after Ghostbusters comes out. So if we only get a ticket announcement this week and we don't get a haunt announcement until or we don't have any more announcements until end of April-ish, mid to end of April, I don't think Ghostbusters will be coming. Skull and Spooky. Oh, HHN Light. Yo, those were good. I mean, I think Bride of Frankenstein was only slightly better in 2021, but I mean, Revenge of the Tooth Fairy was great in 2020. Bride was great in 2020, so HHN Light was a great starting point because super good haunts that didn't really sacrifice the quality. You just had to do that so you were blind by the time you went inside since it was still bright as all get out waiting in line. Yeah, hopefully a new icon, Colby. You know, if by new icon you mean finally bringing Boris Schuster into the spotlight, then yes, I agree with you. But otherwise, I'm okay with a new icon next year as long as we get a good utilization of someone returning this year, hopefully. All right, bye, Skull and Spooky. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Josh, agree. Sorry, I misread that, and I was very confused. Yeah, definitely join. We've been looking at some 2008 stuff on the Discord. Link should be in the description, I believe, so make sure you guys join that. If you want, like I said, no hard feelings if you don't, but I just like getting to know you guys, talking about HHN, talking about games, talking about having fun, you know. I think the world's a better place because we're all in it together, and that Discord helps me achieve that, so let's do it. Colby, I agree. I wish we could get a sequel to Scarecrow. Put it in a soundstage and make it just as claustrophobic, but twice as long with some really massive scenes. So good. Same, Derek, same. Well, I'm going to go ahead and log off, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this stream. If you guys want more like this, comment on my community post, comments on this stream. If you guys like me doing these every week, I'll try and make sure I can do them every week. Because I like getting to know you guys. 28th, Thursday, 9 days from now, 8 days from now, 6 Billion Trivia live. Sometime in the afternoon, evening, so don't miss it. Josh, I'll try and make it as West Coast friendly as I can without going too late. HHN Trivia coming out within the next week or two. Stay tuned. Love you guys. Go make the world a better place. Thanks for tuning in. This is I think my best stream yet with the most people, and I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I'm stoked, man. It's going to be a great year. Take care, guys.